This episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast is sponsored by the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. As a woman in the modern world, our hormones are taking a battering. They're impacted by the food we eat, the toxins we're exposed to, such as when we eat out of plastic takeaway containers, or even worse, reheat food in them. Please don't do this. If you're handling FPOS receipts, filling the car with fuel, eating non-organic produce that hasn't been washed effectively, plus so much more things add to our toxic load every day. Even though our bodies are designed to effectively manage toxins, they haven't evolved as quickly as our toxic world has, unfortunately. So our body does need support. Symptoms such as stubborn weight gain, fatigue, disrupted periods, irritability, and gut health issues can be a sign that you'd benefit from a gentle detox. And that's why I developed the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. This free guide has an abundance of information to get you started on your very own DIY detox. And if you'd like to upgrade to VIP, it's only $47 for a limited time. I used to sell this program for $247. The upgrade gives you the recipes, including plenty of plant-based options, the meal planner, the shopping list template, the video workshop, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more now. Take care of your hormones. They are a critical part of your health as a woman. Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. And this is a Tuesday episode, and normally that's not a Q&A, but I had an awesome question from one of my clients, actually. This is Deb from Tasmania, and she asked me a question that I thought, oh man, this is an awesome podcast question, because I'm sure if she's wondering, then other people are wondering as well. So I'm going to read the question. She said, I listen to your podcast pretty much on a daily basis. Thank you, Deb. And I wanted to ask a question. As our bodies have stopped producing estrogen and progesterone, what are we actually running on? Compare us to our younger selves, or even to the male species. If we no longer have those hormones running through our bodies, what do our bodies function on? What makes us different from men or young women? All right, Deb, that's a massive question. So that was too much for an email response from me and a bit too much for a Q&A Thursday, because I like to keep those episodes fairly brief. But let's get into this, because this is a super juicy question. So I wanted to start, because there is a long answer and a short answer. So I'm going to give you the long answer because it makes it easier to understand. And firstly, just to get an understanding of the role of these hormones, I think that will help. So the role of estrogen, most of us just think about its relationship with the menstrual cycle. It stimulates ovaries to release eggs. It thickens the endometrium in preparation for implantation. And when we're thinking of estrogen, most of us are thinking about our fertility. But in fact, the primary role of estrogen is to promote growth and development, right? And that's why at the beginning of puberty, we start to see this real rise in estrogen. If possible, I'm actually going to attach to the Instagram and Facebook post, which this podcast is going to be seen on. I'll pop a really awesome graph by Professor Geraldine Pryor that actually outlines graphically, so it's really easy to understand, the life cycle, I guess, of our reproductive hormones. So I'm hoping I'm able to fit that on a social media post. If it doesn't fit, then I will pop it on the website susiegarden.com on my podcast page so you can see it, because it does make it a lot easier to understand. So if the primary role of estrogen is to promote growth and development, that's why we start to see it really starting to rise during puberty, where we're really seeing that growth and development of the reproductive system, particularly in females, but it also builds muscle and bone. It maintains the health of the brain and the heart. It helps maintain a healthy metabolic rate. It helps with our glucose and insulin management. So it helps with healthy weight management, as well as energy and other things. So estrogen actually has a number of roles other than reproductively. And same with progesterone. Even though progesterone's primary role is actually to promote fertility and it's vital to maintain pregnancy in the first 12 weeks, progesterone also protects against endometrial cancer and breast cancer. It's a natural antidepressant. It reduces the progression of osteoporosis. It helps normalize blood sugar levels. And it's also known for its anti-inflammatory properties, its calming properties. The brain really loves progesterone, loves estrogen as well. And also it's a good natural pain relief. And then if we actually go and look at testosterone as well, particularly in women, the role of testosterone is, again, bone health, muscle mass, libido, hair quality, mood, brain health. And in fact, during our reproductive years, testosterone levels in the brain exceed those of estradiol or estrogen significantly. And they think there may be a connection with the testosterone in the brain and the reduction of that during perimenopause and menopause, that there may be a link with Alzheimer's there, which is a little bit concerning. But, knowledge is good. We want to know this so that we can work towards managing this, because I think that the testosterone in the brain actually reduces the accumulation of the amyloid beta protein in the brain. That's what's associated with Alzheimer's disease. And they think also that it speeds up nerve regeneration. So that's super important. Testosterone is also an anti-inflammatory as well. So if we know the role of all of these hormones, and we can see how important they are, particularly, and this is the thing, when you realize all of these different roles that these hormones have, you can see why women's health can be a lot poorer after menopause. That's when we start to lose our muscle mass. And I know my experience has been, even if I'm doing the same things in the gym or at Reformer or whatever, I'm not able to maintain the same level of muscle that I was if I don't change some of the things that I'm doing in terms of my nutrition, for example. Also, just as you know, if you're a regular listener, I was this year diagnosed with osteopenia. So my bone density isn't what it was, and that'll be because of the loss of estrogen and also progesterone, probably testosterone as well. So we know that estrogen helps build muscle and bone, so that's a big issue. Maintaining the health of the brain and the heart, we know that some of the symptoms of perimenopause, in particular the brain fog, the memory loss, that kind of thing. We know many women get palpitations as part of the perimenopause transition. Also, the weight gain that happens, the metabolism is impacted by estrogen, and our blood sugar regulation is impacted by progesterone. So that really promotes weight gain, particularly around the middle, and also promotes fatigue, makes us crave carbs, all of those sorts of things. And I know myself, I'm particularly sensitive to this sort of stuff. I know this about myself. So keeping my nutrition optimal for me, having the right balance of protein and carbs and fats, really helps me manage my carb cravings, manage my energy levels, prevent fatigue, improve sleep, like so many things. So this is really important. If you understand what's going on, then that will help you. Now, back to Deb's question, which was, and I'm just getting it up on my phone, as our bodies have stopped producing estrogen and progesterone, and I've added in testosterone there, what are we actually running on? Compare us to our younger selves or to men. If we don't have these hormones running through our bodies, how do our bodies function? What are they functioning on? Well, I guess the first thing is that it's not just about estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. They're three of our many, many, many hormones. We have loads and loads of different hormones, and not all of them, some of them that we don't talk about when we're talking about our reproductive hormones, because a lot of our systems are linked together. If you get the loss of the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, that's going to impact other hormones for sure. But we still have enough to support what our body needs to do. Because remembering, we're moving into a different stage of life. We're not needing to grow taller. We're not needing to have children. We're not needing to have the level of hormone in our bodies anymore, because we're just not doing those same things that we did previously in other parts of our life cycle. And as for those reproductive hormones, we still actually make some of these. We're not just suddenly deficient, or rather have none of estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. It's not like that. We just have low levels. In fact, if I can put that graph up with this podcast, you'll see that basically our hormone levels return to childhood levels. So we still have some there. We just don't have the level that we are used to. And we have gotten used to it as women over our lifetime. We've gotten used to having a certain level of these different hormones in our systems. And as I mentioned before, the brain loves progesterone, it loves estrogen, loves testosterone. So when suddenly these hormones are either falling away or they're surging, it really impacts us, and it's very, very noticeable. But we are still making some of these hormones. And in particular, and this is really important, our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands, so they're two little glands that are located just above our kidneys. They produce small amounts of progesterone and estrogen. And this is important because one of the things I bang on about a lot is stress management. And if we are in our stress response, we're producing stress hormones. And one of those stress hormones is cortisol. And guess what? We use progesterone to make cortisol. And so if we're in our stress response, that progesterone, instead of doing all of the jobs that normally it would do, and remember, we're only producing low levels of it, it's going to get diverted to producing cortisol, which is why when we're in our stress response, sometimes those hormone symptoms can be worse. And one of the things I really love to talk to my clients about is finding a way to manage their stress, because not everyone loves meditating. Not everyone loves exercising. Not everyone feels like they have time or space to prioritize their stress, but we can really use it at this time of life to help support our hormone balance. So the adrenal glands are a really important source of reproductive hormones when we are in menopause. Another thing is our fat tissue. So estrogen is mainly produced in our fat tissue after menopause. And again, as you know, I work a lot in weight loss, and when women are releasing significant amounts of weight on my program, often they can have hormonal type symptoms, particularly women in perimenopause that are still having a cycle, often will get disruption to their period. I even had a lady that had a Mirena in, and she hadn't had a period where she bled for many years, and she actually had a period. She was like, what is going on? And it's because releasing fat tissue releases a lot of estrogen into the body all at once. And so we get symptoms of that because the liver just doesn't have a chance to clear it all in time. So definitely our fat tissue helps. So if you are quite on the lighter scale going into perimenopause, that may have an impact on your symptoms because you may not have a lot of fat tissue producing estrogen. Also, the ovaries still, if you still have ovaries, I should say, do still continue to produce small amounts of our hormones, including testosterone. And testosterone can be converted to estrogen in other parts of the body. So we do still have some ovarian activity, even in menopause. Obviously, if you've had a surgical menopause where you've had your ovaries removed, it's a different story, and I'll mention that shortly. But other sources of estrogen include skin, interestingly enough, the brain, the kidneys. So it's not just that it's our ovaries and that is it. There's many, many different organs in our body that produce small amounts of estrogen and progesterone, which is why we are more prone to getting osteoporosis, to losing our muscle mass, cardiovascular disease, all of those sorts of things post-menopause when our levels of reproductive hormones have dropped significantly. I mentioned before about surgical menopause. So women often who are a little younger, maybe in their early 40s, that have their ovaries removed prior to really experiencing any symptoms of perimenopause, and they get plunged into menopause overnight. And often those women do report really quite significant menopause symptoms compared with their counterparts that have had a natural perimenopause, then menopause transition where it's taken time, your body has naturally dropped off its progesterone, and we've lived through these surges of estrogen and then these drops in estrogen. And along the way, the body does adapt. And this is the ideal outcome, is that we can move through this transition and we can adapt through the systems in our body that are designed to do that. We know that any sort of living organism, whether it's a plant or an animal, human, adaptability is what has led us to survive. And our body, starts to adapt to that lower level of hormone. And there still may be symptoms. Absolutely. I hear all the time women in their 60s, 70s still having hot flushes. Obviously, there can be those vaginal symptoms, all that sort of thing. And, there's things we can do in natural health that can help support this. As you know, my Glow protocol is very much designed to support women in perimenopause and menopause. And I've seen some amazing improvements in symptoms that even I wasn't really expecting. But when we can balance out the hormones, reduce inflammation in the body, get our blood sugar and our insulin beautifully balanced, that seems to just really reduce our symptoms. It allows for the body to function very, very well and supports a really awesome quality of life, whether you're in peri or post-menopause. And the weight loss becomes almost a happy side effect. A lot of women that come to work with me want that weight loss goal, which is fine. We can do that. But I have also women that come just because they have symptoms, don't have a weight loss goal. And for those women, we can still do the Glow protocol. We just gear that personalized nutrition plan so that you're not going to lose big amounts of weight, because that's not your goal. So, Deb, I hope I have answered your question. Do let me know. And if any of you have questions that have kind of come from this podcast, please feel free to send them in. I absolutely love talking about this stuff. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to add to it. I don't think there really is at the moment. I think that's enough. But yeah, just know that I guess in summary, the body can adapt to these lower levels of hormones. There are plenty of other places in your body that can produce estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, but the conditions need to be optimal right? The conditions need to be optimal. You need to be managing your stress, really refining your nutrition. That's why, as you know, I deal in personalized nutrition plans based on people's blood testing. So I'm really getting optimal nutrition for my clients. But even if you clean up your diet, you include lots and lots of whole foods, lots of greens, really using foods that are going to support your liver. Remember, your liver is doing a lot of work at this time of life because it's helping to manage your hormones. So you want to be really making sure that every opportunity to nourish your body, you're really making good decisions and minimizing, eliminating processed foods, fast foods, alcohol, really minimizing that. Really anything that's going to put toxins into your body, try and avoid that. And hydrating, of course, that's super important. And also, what else? Moving your body. I guess that's the other thing, because you've really lost your hormones that are going to be helping maintain your muscle mass and your bone health. So the best thing you can do for that is move your body. I'm reading a lot lately about having a jumping practice. Now that doesn't work for my body. My joints do not like weight-bearing, heavy weight-bearing exercises. I get very sore. And that's always been the case for me. So jumping practice for me is not appealing. However, in Reformer, we do jump work, and I reckon that will be pretty similar. Dancing, I can dance to for a limited amount of time. So things like that can work really, really well. Finding fun movement that you really enjoy, and also resistance training where you're lifting heavy things to keep that muscle mass and your bones strong, because that will really serve you as you move into the years ahead where you want to keep your independence, you want to keep your quality of life, all of those things. So I think I've covered it. Deb, let me know if that's not covered the question for you. And as I said, anyone that has any further questions, I would love to answer them. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be back on Thursday with Q&A. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you get each new episode delivered to you every week. If you like free stuff, then head to the show notes and click the link to receive my free Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for perimenopausal women. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.